You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. How many of you guys have coded before? Any coding experience whatsoever? All right. Okay, raise your hand if you have not coded in your life. Okay. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, hi, my name is Michael Pichardo. I'm a software engineer at Invisible Technology, and we are going to build an app in 45 minutes. Luckily, I know this is going to be kind of challenging, but we're going to make it easy for you guys. So, if you have Google Chrome on your laptop, go to this URL. So, that URL is going to be a guide to follow along the session. Take your time. This step is critical. Make sure you go to the link and you have VS Code installed. Who does not have VS Code installed? Raise your hand. All right. So after you go to this URL, go to Google, type in VS Code, and download it. You guys like the Google campus so far?
Yeah.
Able to see like the other side.
Yeah, the views are just amazing. For their size. I met some of you guys at lunch yesterday. Yeah.
Can we use VS Code for web?
No, download the app. You'll see why in a second. You have the guide open. It's a Google Doc, right? You guys see a Google Doc?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So today we are going to be building a to-do list app, and it's going to kind of look like what we have here. So yeah, do the dishes, submit presentation. Now that was the to-do list I had a couple weeks ago. You guys might be asking me like, why are we building a to-do list app? Well, actually, it's a FAANG interview question that I got. And you kind of don't want to be like me because I bombed that interview. So definitely want to know how to do it this time around. So yeah, it's a FAANG interview. And usually when you do an interview, everyone asks you like, oh, what's the tech stack you're using? And we're going to walk through that now, actually. So we're actually using the latest technology. We're using React on the front end. It's a library that Meta created. That's open source. And it's a really popular framework that everyone uses. And we're also using Next.js, which is, it works on both the front end and the back end. Next.js is like a new framework. It kind of makes the process easier for developers so that we can actually make this app in this session. Because a lot of times the developers would spend a lot of time setting up the servers, setting up all this extra steps. Well, you're going to see it's just going to be like one command line. So in addition to React and Next.js, we're going to be using Prisma, which is going to do our database operations management. And we're going to use Sqlite, which is our database. All right, so who does not have VS Code? Good. All right, so I'm going to start switching from the slide deck to coding. You guys cool with that? So there's going to be a lot of back and forth on the screen. All right, so we're going to go to VS Code. So, all right. And then, as I said in the screen, is who has a Mac? I see half Windows, half Mac. Okay, mostly Mac. Okay, cool. So there's this command called control, and then tilde. Full tilde format. You see it on the screen. That's going to help you open the terminal window in VS Code. So you look at my screen, I'm clicking control tilde, and now you see that we're in the terminal. You see this little box? Who doesn't have that little box in there? All right. And so we're going to do something called CD, which is change directory. CD desktop. And now we're going to copy this command line. If you guys have the Google Doc open, it should be really easy to copy paste. This command's going to create our actual project. So you got to make sure the spaces on the before the yes, the dashes before the yes are accurate. And then the last thing is the name of the project. So for most of you guys, it's going to be to-do list. For me, I'm going to call it to-do list like 7 because I've done this a bunch of times prepping for this. So I have my notes too. So right here, I'm going to copy paste. Okay. If it asks you to do anything, like if you have to install something, just say yes. And then you should see like kind of like on my screen as well, it's installing a bunch of things.
What if it says command not found in fields?
That's a common thing that should be happening to a lot of you guys.
Yeah, that's happening to me too.
All right. So the way you overcome that is you have to go in the terminal and type in npm run dev, and it should be on your Google Doc. I'm not going to run this command, but if you look at my screen, you have to do npm install 18.18.0
From our desktop or from
from the terminal screen.
like when we're in the desktop folder? In the terminal?
I think that the desktop should work. You don't have to be inside the project.
Okay.
So yeah, you do npm install 18.18.0, and then the other command would be nvm use 18.18.0. And guys, this is a normal thing as a developer. Like you're always going to have some package issue, and there's just this terminal command that you'll just put it in, overcome the issue, next on to the next thing. All right. I'm going to keep moving, and some of you guys are going to stay lost. That's why we have the guide. So the guide has all, yeah, like we have 45 minutes, you know, we're going to keep it moving. So once you have the project installed, you're going to CD into the project. So mine's called to-do list. So 7. And then, so I did CD desktop, but you know, you can also, what I was told to do with you guys is to open VS Code, go to file, go to open folder, and then you open the project that you just created. Desktop to-do, mine's called 7. Okay, yours should just be called to-do list. All right, so once you're inside the project, we're gonna run some terminal commands. All of this is to set it up. This is gonna save us a lot of time later. This is why we're able to do this in such a short time period. I'm gonna do npm run dev. And what npm run dev is gonna do is I'm gonna show you what we just created, right? Just by one terminal command. So you see the screen, this is a boilerplate Next.js project. If you're seeing this, that means you did the terminal command correctly. All right, just so you see that we created the app already. The way you stop running, you do Control-C. That stops the server from running. Okay, next, we're gonna install an extension. So I've already installed it, but most of you guys probably have not. We're gonna install Prisma. Remember how we said that earlier in the tech stack? So we're gonna go to extensions. So it's this button over here on VS Code. It has like the squares. You're gonna type in Prisma. And the first one that comes up should have an install button. You're gonna click install. We need this. So make sure you do it. The whole point of this is to show you guys that it's possible. All right, once you install Prisma, and you see in the slide deck has the click this, type Prisma, install Prisma. All right, once you're in, we're going to type in some new terminal commands. So we're going to go back to our project. Make sure you're inside your project, so it says to-do list down here. And we're going to just type in this command. So this is installing Prisma, which is what we're using for our database operation management. All right. And then next, we're going to install Sqlite. Okay, Sqlite is our database. All right. So if you see these next steps, you can ignore it for now, because I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. All right. So we're going to go to the get ignore file. right here. And we're gonna add .env to our ignore file. And we're gonna add the model to the schema. So if you did the Prisma command, right? You're gonna open the Prisma folder and you're gonna see something called schema.prisma. So these are like the boilerplate schemas that we were given. We need to create a new schema for our to-dos. And you'll be able to find that in the doc. So I'm gonna just go over there and find it. So you can go ahead and copy and paste this into your doc, as you can see here. And this is what's going to give us structure for our database called the schema. All right, after you've done this, go ahead and start closing these files and make sure you save. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a migration. And so a migration, for those of you who don't know, it's a way to apply the changes to your database schema over time. And it helps you synchronize the changes with your actual database so that, like for example, at Invisible, everyone has to approve of a certain schema, and then that's the schema that everyone's using. And then everyone has to migrate to the latest schema. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. Command S, Command save. All right, so we're gonna go and we're gonna run one more command, and it's the actual migration. So I'm gonna go to the doc here, migrate. Some of you guys are beating me to it. That's good to hear. Good to see. So now it says here your database is now in sync with your schema. All right, next we're gonna create a DB file. Make sure you guys create these files in the right places. The reason why this is important is because Next.js does routing based on the file and folder structure. So in SRC, we're going to right click if you have a Mac, and you're going to create a new file. And in this new file, we're going to call it db.ts. And we are going to copy and paste the db file we have here. I'm starting to see some questions. I'm going to copy paste and answer some questions.
You created a source folder.
Yes, if it asks you to create a source folder, make sure you have a source folder. Otherwise, you would have to start from the beginning.
So,
all right, questions. I'm seeing questions.
What are you supposed to edit in the get.ignore file?
It should let you edit. You go to get ignore, and at the very bottom, you could just write .env. And actually, we're going to add something else to the get ignore file. We're going to add dev.db star. What's up?
What did you add to the source folder?
What did I add to the source folder? I will show you. So when you see source/app, you're supposed to right click, create a new file, and then we created something called the db file. And all this should be in the doc file. All right, great. So now we have this up and running for most of us. We're going to do an npm run dev just to show you guys again that it should work. So you see localhost 3000. So we still see the white page. It means we install our things and it's working. Okay. Okay, next, we're going to go to the global CSS. So CSS, for those of you who don't know, it's just styling. It's what makes our app look pretty. Okay. And what we're going to do here is we're going to actually remove a lot of the styling that came in the boilerplate. And we're only going to keep Tailwind. Tailwind is a design system that's popular and really beautiful. And that's what we're using for our project. So once you do that, save, close it out. All right, so now we're going to actually get into the coding stuff. You guys ready? Some of you guys? All right, so now we're going to go to the home page. So we're going to delete most of this stuff. We're going to rebuild it because that's where a lot of our code is going to be. So you see this arrow right here up to 5. I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to just take out this div. Div stands for division. And then It's gonna be normal, by the way, when it complains at you with the underline, the red underline. We can just delete that. Awesome. All right, next, we're gonna go to the layout folder here, and we're gonna remove basically all of it. We're gonna replace it with a new layout component. Manas. So this defines the layout and the styling of the app and imports the styles. So enter font is actually a font that was made by Google, and it ensures that all the pages have a consistent structure. And it wraps it around with the root layout component. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to the source folder. And we are going to create a new folder. Creating a new folder. This folder is going to be called new. And I don't want you guys to get confused, but we're also going to call this file page. Page. Make sure that when you create the file names, it says .tsx, because that's the language that we're using. It's called TypeScript. And it has to be in this format so that the app runs. Remember, routing is based on the file and folder structure in Next.js. All right, awesome. So now we're going to add a div. We're just going to create a boilerplate div. Nothing fancy. Just says new page, the header section. Okay. Complaining. Do not find name H1. Okay, awesome. All right, so now we're going to go back to the home page. So in this home page, we're going to have two main sections. Really important that you guys understand this concept, because this is like the part of the coding interview that they expect you to get down. So we're going to spend a lot of time focused on these details. So the first section is going to be a header section, and the second section is going to be an unordered list, UL. All right. So I'm going to call this header. Oops. We're going to call this UL. It's important not to get freaked out when it starts complaining at you. Part of the job. All right, awesome. Now we're going to call this, we're going to create H1. And in this H1, we're just going to call it a name. I'm going to call it to-do list. Next, we're going to create something called a link. It's going to complain at me. Don't worry. I'm going to call this new. So we're going to go here, click fix, add input. Boom. All right, yeah, the link. And we're gonna get to this stuff now. The unordered list. So in here, we're gonna have a list item. That's the overall structure. All right, we have a header section and we have an unordered list, and then here are all the list items. So if you were hard coding this, it'd be to do 1, right? It'd be to do 2, right? But we're building an app and we're gonna build structure, we're gonna build components. So we're gonna remove that. We're gonna create something called a to-dos constant. Oh. I'm gonna explain all this in just a second, guys. Stay with me. All right, it's complaining a lot, but usually you can overcome it by just importing the right things. All right, so this is the main structure that's going to help us create our app. Should be what you guys have here. And now the only difference really, which I'm going to go back to, is we're going to add the styling. I didn't want to confuse you guys in the beginning. So let's explain this. We'll go back, we'll copy and paste, we'll add the styling. So we created this constant called to-dos, and this is going to go to the database and fetch any of the to-dos that we have in our database. And so when it fetches the to-dos, it's going to use a mapping function to get each to-do. It's going to match at each to-do, and it's going to look at the key that each to-do has, which is the ID number. So like the first to-do is going to be number 1, the second one's going to be number 2. Those are the IDs. And then it's going to have a title. So the title is like what you name it, right? So if you're going to say get groceries, that's your title. All right, cool. So go ahead and copy paste for the sake of time. All right, awesome. We have our main homepage ready to go. And so now we're going to add this hello world. This is kind of like a hacky version of creating a to-do. And so if we run npm run dev, let's see what we have so far. So we should have a to-do list. We should have a new link, and this shouldn't have anything yet. We're not seeing any of the to-dos, but if you refresh, it'll say hello world. Okay, awesome. We're gonna speed through the rest of this for the sake of time. So now we're gonna create a to-do item component. So we're gonna replace this li with a to-do item, right? So as part of what we do in coding, we create components so that we can reduce the amount of code in every page. So we're going to create a components folder, new folder in the SRC. I'm going to call it components. And this components folder, we're going to create a new file. And this file is going to be to-do item.tss. Awesome. This to-do item is going to have, we're just going to copy and paste it. I'm going to explain it briefly, but we're going to keep it moving. So on a high level, we just moved those LIs that we're using for the list items, and we have an input. So this input is a checkbox. So that's when you see the app, it's going to be a checkbox that you can click, and the label is going to be the title. And so you're going to see that there's different CSS here. That's just to make it more apparent. So ID title, great, save. So now we're going to go here. We're going to replace this with a to-do item. We should be importing. Whenever it complains, you have no other problems with an import, I solve the problem. All right, great. So now we're going to switch to a new page. So this is where we actually add the task. And we can copy the header from the previous page. Right? You can just copy paste this part. We're going to remove all this other stuff. We don't need the link. And then in here, that's kind of what we have here. We're going to create a form. So this form is what we're going to submit the to-dos in. For the sake of time, I'm just going to copy paste. All right, so here on a high level, and I'm going to show you the app so you can see it. We're creating a form that allows us to either cancel, which takes us back to the home page, or it gives us a create button. When you click create, it's a submit. And what that's going to do, it's going to submit the task to the database, and it's going to display that task into the home page. Go ahead and show you guys in just a second. Here, localhost 3000. So you see our hello worlds. These are our to-dos, right? You can check them and toggle them. If you create new, all of a sudden you see this box here. This is called a form. And we can add a to-do here. We're going to call it finish the top down. Where slow. So now that should create the to-do item, right? You can see that right here. All right, awesome. So next we have to add server actions. So we're going to go to the next.config file. We're going to remove this. We're going to replace it with server actions. You're going to see why we're doing this step now. So we're going to go back to the new page. And we're going to add this create to do. It's going to complain a bit, but we're going to input Prisma, redirect. Okay, and so the last reason why it's complaining here is because we're not using it. So we're going to add an action here called create to do. All right, so it shouldn't complain anymore. What this function does, this is not like too much JavaScript. It's more like Prisma and Sqlite. We're just creating a title constant, and then we're going to get the title from the task that we created, and we're going to create the task. So the data here is going to be the title, and we're going to make it complete equals false. So it's uncompleted. It's a new task. And then once a new task is created, it's going to redirect us back to the home page so we can see the task. Okay. And if you right-click and solve all the squiggly lines, you shouldn't have any errors. Now we have to go back to the to-do item component and add the complete field. So go back to the to-do item component. So in our to-do item props, we have ID and title. We're going to add more props. So we're going to add this complete Boolean. So that kind of tracks whether it's complete or not in our app. And this is important because when we refresh the app, we want to make sure that the to-do tasks that we have are saved. So even if you refresh, whether it's complete or incomplete, you want to have that information saved. You don't want to redo it every time. And we're going to have something called toggle to do. So what this does is it tracks the behavior. If you checked it or unchecked it, you should be able to see it in the app. So it tracks that behavior and saves it. So we add those two things. We're going to go back to our function. We're going to add complete here, and we're also going to add toggle to do here. It's complaining because I'm not using it yet. Don't worry. Get there. We're going to add this default checked and this on change handler. And I think we should be good. Let's test this out. Oh. Wrong button here. For localhost. All right, so we have hello world, create new, get finished, sir. So we add it, and so it toggles. When you check it, and uncheck it, it should show you there's a strike through it, and you should be able to see this. So this was us deep coding. This is how the final product should look like. I have some quick questions before we go. Does anyone have any ideas of how we can make this better? Go ahead.
You could add the option to delete something on the to-do list.
That's a fantastic suggestion. If we had more time, we would want to have like a little trash can. So if you want to delete it from the view, you can click the trash can. Anything else? Anything else that we're missing that I promised you that we were going to do and we weren't able to do? You guys don't know, I'll give you a hint. There's a word called deploy. So whenever you finish an app, this app is working locally, but the next step is to put it into production. So you got to deploy the app. And that's a whole separate set of steps. Usually with the Next.js, you can deploy it in Vercel, which is another tech solution that's really popular these days on Twitter. And there's other things that we can use like fly.io, render.com, or Railway. And that's it. Thanks for rocking with me. Vercel is so amazing. The thing with our project here is that because we're using Sqlite, Vercel doesn't like it.
Yeah.
If you had like a Postgres database, it'd be easier to deploy to Vercel.
I actually use MongoDB for my server and I deployed it through MongoDB. So I think that works as well, but I've used SQL databases.
And at Invisible, we use Prisma. I think if with the to-do list projects, that's pretty good. You know, if you were to do this, publish it, maybe you do a Loom video. Have you heard of Loom?
No.
Allows you to record your screen. So like, I applied to a job. I'll show you real quick. I want to be different. I know I don't have formal work experience, so you walk them through the project. You can maybe do it in like a minute. And then these people can watch it at 1.5 speed.
Then you get into the mess up.
So,
Yeah.
hey, you know what you need, man?
Oh, here we
You need
go.
someone inside a company
Okay.
that believes in you, believes in your passion,
Okay.
pulls you
So
in.
this was a different.
And the way you show them your passion, the things like that.
And,
Okay. So would you mind taking a look at that project? You can deploy it and
Let's do it. And I actually want to know his error too.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Nice meeting you. Likewise.
What?
And we'll be in touch. Like,
be in
let's
touch.
help each other.
Yeah.
Wait, what were you saying, bro?
The EMV.
Can you show me your error?
oh, yeah. So what I realized what it was, basically, I didn't copy. So what I did was,
Oh, for Prisma.
I just copied NPX Prisma.
Oh, the
And then
gray stuff.
I
You missed
erased
it.
it. I missed it. And so I'm like, what the heck? Because you were like, yo, just follow it. I'm like, yo, I did. And then I went back and I saw you on the screen, like you copied everything. And I was like, okay, I got to start over. So I started over.
Nice. Show me where you ended up on.
So I was just in the process of replacing layout TSX.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I got all of the instructions, so I'll just finish the tutorial. But
Do you understand? It's so easy to copy and paste, but do you understand how everything works?
yes, so
And that's a question for you too. I think you do, but I want to.
To a degree, but like still a bit different, so I'm still wrapping my brain around something.
So this stuff you don't need to know as much.
Mhm.
This is stuff just to set up the project.
Right.
Inter is a font that Google made. So we're just taking things that already exist so we don't have to rebuild them.
Yeah.
That's what allows us, that's what innovation is. Like you're not gonna reinvent wheels, you're gonna
Yeah.
make the wheels faster, stronger, better, but you're not gonna think about that. Someone else made it.
For sure.
And then in this section, right, this is just boilerplate stuff. A div, the
Right.
division, a new page, that's just the title, the
Yeah.
header.
Right.
And then the link, you know what the link does? What the link does, it reroutes. It's a button, but it reroutes your app, like where you are.
URL.
So when you click link, it's gonna take you to the /new.
Okay.
It's a route in your project. So it takes you to the new folder. Remember I told you like, oh, we're gonna create a folder?
Yeah.
So it takes you there, reroutes you, and that's where you add your tasks. And then this is the JavaScript stuff that you gotta learn. And so you're using a mapping function on a to-dos object.
Yep.
And based on the ID, it's gonna create a lot of LIs. So it's gonna get every to-do in this to-dos object.
Yeah.
You're mapping over it based on the ID, and you're displaying the title.
I see. I see.
This stuff you don't have to know as much, but this is like Prisma language,
Mm.
and we're just adding this to-dos object to the database, and you're fetching it. You're trying to get
Right.
all the to-dos in your database.
One question is, I'm picking up on React in terms of like just using it with Vue.
Vue.js.
Yeah,
okay.
Vue.js. And so what is the difference between like Vue.js and Next.js?
And there's also another one called Angular.
Pick
Right.
your poison.
Yeah,
Right,
like
right.
I haven't really worked with Vue. My friend who did told me they're pretty similar.
Angular is kind of not, well, Vue and Angular,
Vue and React, I heard, are similar.
yeah, Angular is kind of different. Like I did a project on that.
On Angular?
Yeah.
That's what he said. Pick your poison. Like,
Yeah.
That's a fun.
we usually, when you interview with the company, you ask them like, oh, what's your tech stack?
Right.
So if you stick with React or Vue, you'll be all right. Okay. Are you interviewing with companies?
No, not at the moment, but I've been practicing for it.
It's tough, man. Getting your first software engineer
Yeah.
job,
Yeah, I'm leaning more into front end right now because I'm tired of like dealing with the people with,
the
Yeah.
back end experience.
yeah. So this was a full stack project, so this works completely.
He's been trying to show me this, but
Okay.
we'll go into that. But guys,
We can shadow.
Yeah, well,
You
you guys
I'm
want
actually
more?
going to-
Come look. You guys want to see this
For
project?
sure.
But on a high level, I think what matters most is kind of what I said earlier. You gotta find someone who like believes in your passion and help give you that opportunity.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to work not much money to get started, but you get started.
Yeah, I'm
Now you
doing
have the
volunteer work
experience.
for no money right now. Just
Mhm.
trying to get my resume up, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm trying my best right now.
You know how I got started as a software engineer? I was working as a business analyst. That was my first job out of college. And I started using no code to automate things in the company. And my manager said, holy shit, like you did something really impactful with this workflow. Why don't you become a software engineer?
Mm.
I didn't have much coding experience in college. And, she believed in me. She promoted me. And I spent a year as like the bottom of the bottom, like doing baby tasks. But I got lucky because they invested in me. Like, I had a salary, but I was still learning
Yeah.
how to code. And after that, I had a year of experience coding. And then when I interviewed for another company called eMed, I got lucky. They liked my energy. They didn't really ask me too many technical questions.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I learned on the job. And I kept asking, like, hey, let me build this, let me build that. Like, I want to learn, I want to do it. And I was just so annoying to them that they would give me the work I asked for.
Yeah.
And the next time when I was interviewing, it's like, okay, I already have this 2 years of work experience.
Yeah.
All right, I started doing the technicals and we're still out there. I haven't mastered the technical interviews still, but I think it goes back to the first point. You gotta have someone that believes in you,
Yeah,
and then you'll figure out the rest.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm here showing you my
Yes,
project.
sir.
This guy, all right, let's go through this. This guy's been
What you build it with?
React, but the back end is Express.js.
Okay.
this is cool. How'd you get this
It's I use Framer Motion for that one.
frame of motion?
Yeah, it's a JS tool, I guess. you call it.
And you're just displaying.
It's a shoe store, kind of e-commerce website. Like you click on sale right there. You can browse through the type of shoe.
So you're right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Mongo?
Mongo, it's chill, but I think I need to practice more.
Could I buy this? Like
Ah,
you collect payment
yeah.
with Stripe?
With Stripe, I have it on, what do you call it? It's test mode, so that
Gotcha.
I can actually like. Put
Well, this is really good. Actually, I'm gonna show you something too. So you probably spent like hours, probably weeks working on this.
like 2 months because I have to find all the pictures myself. I
Oh,
created the
you did that,
logos.
yeah.
I made everything like look like a branded company, you know?
I'm gonna show you something.
Yeah, I'll show you.
This one, Shipfast. So ship your startup in days, not weeks. So it already has all these components pre-made, so you don't have to remake them.
Oh, okay.
So you focus on testing the actual,
Product. Okay.
like you A/B test, like what buttons, what language. I already have Stripe.
So that's, you do less of the developer work on Stripe side.
Oh my God, you don't have to do any developer work.
That's
It's already made for you.
Yeah.
How about you learn, brother?
Yeah, it's hurt though, like
You have to pay for this. But I always think, because I've done this in the past where it's like, oh, I have a client, let me make a website. And I've gone into like the deep coding, like, okay, I'm gonna make a vanilla JavaScript website. If you're ever making a website for a client, just do no code. Just
I'm doing that for a nonprofit right now. I might just switch to Shipfast.
ship, if you're gonna collect payment, ship fast.
Because they need donations.
I don't know, can you use Stripe for donations?
Yeah. They're
And it
currently
sends the
using-
email with Mailgun.
Oh, that's sick.
So when they buy, you want to send them an email. And like the whole login thing,
That's sick.
so you don't have to like remake this stuff.
I use JWT for my,
Yeah, me too.
JWT token.
yes.
Yeah.
I had a problem.
That
with
was crazy to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, that is not okay.
This
And
is the free version. This is like a free one.
So yeah,
That's why.
I ended up storing like information. It's like, because you can't store it in local storage or in the database because it can be retrieved in certain situations. So I had to learn to use cookies and then have cookies deleted.
That's exactly
And it was
when I try to
tough.
factor that in for like automatic timeout as well. That's what I had to learn basically about.
All right, boys, you guys hungry?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go eat.
we can talk about it some more with some food, you know.